We're shutting the party down. Nobody's going to touch you. We're shutting your party down. Calm down.
BLM protesters crashing an outdoor restaurant in Rochester, New York over the weekend. The protests are part of the larger anti-police riots happening across the country. Now, the Trump administration taking action against what they say might be fueling a lot of the unrest we're seeing, like the New York Times' 1619 Project and critical race theory and white privilege training programs that we just talked about. Joining us to discuss, I want to welcome in Erin Elmore, a Republican strategist and executive director of USA Strong. Erin, thank you for being with us today. Before we get to the programs about education and history as well, I want to talk to you about that video that we first played. It's unfortunately not the first time that we've seen patrons being scolded by Black Lives Matter protesters. Keep in mind, police reform, justice, and peace are part of what BLM protests apparently call for. But when you see these videos, what do you think of this approach?
It isn't working. In some of these cities, we're on over 100 days of protests and riots. And this is not effectuating change. This is not improving society. This isn't ending what they call systemic racism. All this is damaging property, harming lives, keeping people out of work. This is doing nothing on a positive note and only causing immense harm, and it really needs to stop.
Yeah, you think about those small businesses as well that might have been forced to shut down during the coronavirus lockdowns. And then, of course, when they're finally able to open up, the people who are paying customers are greeted with protesters with a strong message that they don't want to stick around for. They've got to flee the situation. And, you know, Erin, as we get closer to the November election, how do you think these videos are going to impact voters when, of course, you know, keep in mind they're going to head to a private polling place that's going to be much different than a public restaurant?
These rioters are really shooting themselves in the foot. And you touched on this briefly. The people that are out there looting and rioting and protesting generally aren't invested in the communities of which they are doing this. They are not the small business owners. They are not the homeowners. They are not the teachers. They are not the administrators. They are simply coming in and destroying property that they are not invested in. So it's really scaring people. And I think that's what's going to happen on November 3rd, specifically the very targeted voter, the suburban voter. It's terrified. We already know that concealed carry permits are up 500%. What does that tell you? The voters are scared. People are scared for their communities. This is a terrifying existence. This is a terrifying way to live. People are fleeing urban cities in droves. I am one of them. I understand this immensely. It is terrifying, and I think this is going to just drive people on November 3rd to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how you might show these videos in a potential campaign ad. I'm not sure if there's already one or could be one in the works. Only time will tell. I want to bring in our panel of the day to react. We have George Papadopoulos as well as Boyd Matheson joining us now. You know, and I'm hoping both of you guys have not been greeted by these protesters, I guess, you know, in quotes almost, because this is not a peaceful dining experience. George, have you seen something like this where you've been?
Well, I live in Los Angeles, and I'm not the most pleasant person for these types of Marxist-inspired organizations to run into.
Happening, right, in different cities across the U.S. So it really makes you wonder if these people are at all being punished for breaking the law. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I want to go back to Erin's point. She said these people are not members of that community, and that really is the name of the.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate the time you took. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care. All right.